Welcome to the city of Pickering, but be warned, if you speak the truth, you will be penalized. David Menzies for Rebel News here in Pickering, Ontario, and I'm with Lisa Robinson. She is a city councillor here at Pickering. And I think Lisa is learning the hard way that in woke Canada, if you speak the truth, and that truth is offensive to someone somewhere, you will pay a price. And what I'm getting at is Lisa dared to venture upon that political third rail known as the former Indian residential school in Kamloops, British Columbia. This school is allegedly the site of a mass grave of 215 bodies. Or is it? And that indeed is the crux of the matter. So Lisa, as I understand, you published an almost 4-minute long video. It was entitled 215 Mass Graves at Kamloops, 0 Bodies Found After 5 Years, The Lie Exposed, end quote. What did you mean by that exactly?
Well, what I meant by that, David, is like if you remember back in May of 2021, all the newspaper headings, everybody was talking about children being buried in 215 graves in Kamloops. I mean, it was everywhere. Our Prime Minister went, he did this photo op with a teddy bear at the grave. He ordered that all of our Canadian flags be flown at half-mast, and that happened for over 5 months. Yeah. And, you know, globally, we looked like horrible people. We were taught, they're teaching the children in the schools to hate their ancestors, to hate the color of their skin. They were teaching everyone that, you know, we basically, our ancestors aided and abetted in genocide and in murdering of 215 innocent children. Yes.
And the thing is, Lisa, and certainly my colleague Drea Humphrey did a documentary about this, we do not have, all these years later, one scintilla of forensic evidence. I'm talking about, forget about 215 bodies, I'm talking about a single bone proving these claims that this is a mass burial site for 215 people. So if that is the fact of the matter, why can't we question this narrative?
Right. We definitely should be able to question this narrative, David. And, you know, if you look at the record of events that brought us to here, in 2021, they said unequivocally that there were 215 children in graves. And then 3 years later, on the anniversary of that, so in May of 2024, I believe it was, they came out with a statement, and that's when you started to see the language changed. It was no longer that there were 215 children that were buried in these unmarked graves. All of a sudden it changed to there is approximately 200 anomalies. And then those anomalies started turning into potential burial sites. And then just as recent as a month ago, like back in February, it was around February the 17th or the 18th, Kamloops, the nation there, they actually came out and they agreed that no, there have been not one body, not one bone, nothing has been found. So for 5 years, we've been telling this lie, I'm going to call it, because we have no evidence. And like I said, you know, they're teaching this in the schools to the children. Children are being taught to hate themselves. Yeah. And the mayor came out with his statement, and he started condemning me, and he's going to take me to the integrity commissioner again for like another 3 months' pay. But he also lied in his statement. He said that I was denouncing the fact that of the truth of residential schools, or the fact that harms have come to these survivors, which is completely untrue, because I never even mentioned them. And I know survivors is real. That is a very real harm that happened back then.
Why don't we do something tangible for the Native communities? You know, get those approximately 50 reserves off a boil advisory for their drinking water. I mean, that is shameful in the 21st century. This still exists. Also, if municipalities are making these land acknowledgements, aren't they admitting to who might potentially have ownership of the land. Speaking of British Columbia, that's what's happening in a couple of cities there. They're getting a legal opinion. Hey, homeowner, you might not own that house you slaved 40 years to pay off. I mean, Lisa, I think this is madness.
It is madness. And, it's happening also in BC. It's like, the mortgage brokers, the banks, they are not renewing some people's mortgages that they've lived in for 40 and 60 years right now, because they honestly don't know who owns the land now. But if you were to bring that here, or talk to anyone on my council and ask them, hey, would you mind giving up your house because you like to do these land acknowledgements, do you think that they would actually give up their home or their property for the Indigenous people here?
My worry there, Lisa, is that we're talking about truth and reconciliation. You go to people that have slaved away their whole life to pay for their house, you're going to set the truth and reconciliation process back 150 years. I mean, you're talking about Civil War stuff. If somebody's coming to take your house and give it away without any kind of compensation. But Lisa, a very important point, in case folks you think that she misspoke, you have already been docked 21 months salary. If this request goes through, that's another 3 months. By my math, 24 months, that's 2 years. Lisa, do you feel that there is a vendetta against you by Mayor Ash and his allies on council?
Yes, David, they definitely have a vendetta against me. So does a corporation of the city of Pickering, because all of the sanctions that have come forward, except for the very first one, I'll leave that one out, just a 30-day pay sanction for the first one, but it did have the handlings of one of the councillors in the background. But every single pay sanction that I have come from the mayor, my council, and or the CAO. So it's not like, it's the people of Pickering that are coming after me saying, hey, you know what, you misspoke about this or that. It is the corporation of the city of Pickering, with Mayor Ash being the leader of all of that. Playing
devil's advocate here, a cynic might say, why is Lisa Robinson a councillor for Pickering, Ontario, weighing in on a matter that is literally thousands of kilometers away on the other side of the country? Is Lisa Robinson cruising for a bruising? Is she looking for trouble? How would you respond to someone making that allegation?
Well, people have already tried to make that allegation, and I just look at them and I pretty much just say, well, right now in Pickering, all throughout Durham, pretty much everywhere, we are doing land acknowledgements. And they are not mandated. They're not required. It's just virtue signaling. And you know what? All of our staff here, all of the other councillors, they have that on the bottom of all of their emails, right? The land acknowledgement, it goes everywhere. Well, I don't care where you are in the world, but if you're saying that my country that I love so much and I care for and I am fighting for every day of my life, you're telling me that my ancestors are murderers, and again, they genocide these little children. I want the proof. If I'm going to do that land acknowledgement, if I'm going to have anything to do with any of the Indigenous, I want the truth to come out, and that's why I'm very passionate about this. I don't like liars, David, and that's why, I've gotten into so much trouble, is because I speak the truth. I talk about the corruption that's happening here, the wasteful spending that's happening here, and that's what keeps on getting me in so-called trouble, which I'm okay with getting into, because the truth has to be told. And this is one story that the truth has to be told. When my son's in school and they're telling him lies from the teachers, I want the truth to be known, and I want all of his friends, all of his students to know the truth. Yeah, it is disgraceful, the indoctrination. I got to tell you, folks, I did reach out to Mayor Kevin Ash. There's always two sides to every story. His office, in fairness, got back to me. He's not available for an on-camera interview, which is what I offered, but they did send me a prepared statement, and I'll read the statement in part because it goes on much too long. You can read the full statement online where it's being posted. Quote, I want to acknowledge the harm caused by recent comments made by a member of Pickering City Council regarding the First Nations investigations at the former Kamloops Indian residential school site. I offer my sincere apology to Indigenous community members, survivors, families, and all those affected by these remarks. Comments that dismiss, distort,
or cast doubt on the truths shared by survivors and Indigenous communities are deeply hurtful. They undermine reconciliation, re-traumatize those carrying the legacy of residential schools, and have no place in respectful public discourse. We also recognize that the efforts led by Indigenous communities to uncover truth, honor those impacted, and guide healing are critical to advancing reconciliation and shared understanding, end quote. Lisa, I think inadvertently, the mayor kind of made your point with that last line, namely, we also recognize that the efforts led by Indigenous communities to uncover truth. Well, isn't that what you were all about in that short video, trying to uncover the truth of what really happened at Kamloops?
That's exactly what I was trying to do. Everything that I said in my video was truthful, and it came exactly from the natives, the nation there, because like I said, they just put out a statement on February the 17th of 2026, just recently, and the rest of the statement that he talked about the survivors. I never talked anything about the survivors, and I am, like I said before, I am 100%, I feel for the survivors, and, nothing in my video had anything to do with that. So again, just misrepresenting me, and now this. And like I said, you know what? Here, the corporation of the city of Pickering does not do their duty to consult with the Indigenous. And I mean, Kelly LaRocca has said that herself. I spoke about it in our council meeting a month and a half ago. So I mean, it's all proven. I can give you the letters to show that, right? So again, this is just virtue signaling. And just so you know, David, the mayor didn't write this. This was done by his writing team.
Tell me something, Lisa. If you were a betting gal, how do you think the Integrity Commissioner is going to advise council on this latest apparent indiscretion?
Well, seeing as what's happened so far, they do have a bias against me. They've had so many complaints against me now, and they keep on sanctioning me. The mayor and other council members have literally said in council meetings that I have not learned my lesson yet. I have asked for a re-ruling in some cases with the Integrity Commissioner, and they said, well, even if we were able to do that, councillor, you are undeserving. And that is what they actually said. I have it all covered off in emails. So this isn't going to be any different. I've lost 21 months of pay. The new election is coming up on October the 26th. And right now, I haven't been paid at all this year. I haven't been paid since I think like last September, and even then I was only paid for like 2 months, and then they took away my pay again. So even as it is right now, I'm not going to get paid till I think the end of June. They're just going to pile this on to the end of June, and I will not get paid for the rest of my term here in council. And the mayor made a nice Facebook comment today, said, made a comment saying that I wasn't at some event, but there's absolutely nothing in my calendar today because I know he's going on vacation. But he said, oh, well, that's too bad because you've only got 3 months left, basically.
Wow. Lisa, let me ask you a personal question, if I may. I know you're a single mother. 2 years lost salary potentially if another 3 months gets added to the total. I don't know your financial wherewithal, but I know if somebody took away 2 years salary almost from me, it would be devastating. How are you coping?
It is devastating, David. I've had people run crowdfunding for me, which, gathered about $13,000 or so. But then what the city of Pickering did was they, again, fined me another 3 months' pay for crowdfunding. Because
what?
Yes.
Why?
Because underneath the Code of Conduct, again, we're only allowed to accept, gifts and benefits, as I mentioned before, the $500 per person. Well, they now say that crowdfunding is one person, and I didn't disclose it. So
Wait a minute, who do they think they are? Chrystia Freeland in response to the Freedom Convoy?
Yeah, it's pretty much identical to that. So what they did was I got the $13,000. They turned around and I lost 3 months' salary, which is over $15,000. Wow. So I actually lost it all. So it's been very trying because of things like that. And, you know, I have had to go to the food bank, to be honest with you.
Really?
I have. I've had to take out a second mortgage on my house. Okay. And I've had to go to the food bank.
You know, Lisa, it's devastating because I've looked at all the sanctions. I don't understand nothing. If you were a journalist writing this, nothing would come close to meeting the benchmark for defamation or libel. Let's leave it with a scintilla of hope. I know you've told me off camera. I don't know if you've publicly disclosed it or if you want to, but I understand you are going to put your hat in the ring for mayor come October. How's that working?
Yes, I am looking to put my hat in the ring to become mayor because I'll tell you something else. Another way that I lost 3 months' pay was for this statement. If I was to become mayor, I would use the strong mayor's powers for good. I would go into City Hall. I would get rid of the CAO, the city solicitor, and a bunch of the directors because corruption does start at the top. Mm-hmm. And I would tear it down, build it back up from the bottom, and give it back to the people. And that is what I would do if I decide to run for mayor. I will tear down City Hall, and with the mayor's powers, I will be able to get rid of a lot of the corruption that is happening here, stop all this wasteful spending of our tax dollars, and give it back to the people.
Well, good luck, Lisa, and keep us appraised when you officially make that announcement. And you know, folks, I got to tell you, we're here at the beautiful City of Pickering building. Right now, the council chambers are going through some multi-million-dollar renovation. I don't know why. The brief times I've seen those chambers, they look just fine, but what do I know? But what I'm getting at, to the east of me is the cenotaph, and you can see the names of those men who died in the service of their country. And I think some of the things they died for, it was freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. When you see what's happening right now in Canada, and specifically Lisa Robinson, I wonder if these brave soldiers are rolling in their graves. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, I know you love it when Rebel News tells you the other side of the story, but the fact is we need your help. Unlike the trained seals in the mainstream media, we do not receive a single nickel of Mark Carney's journalism slush fund, nor would we accept it if hell froze over and it was offered. Here's where you come in. Can you go to rebelfieldreports.com? That's rebelfield